The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
And as Jesus was setting out on his journey, a man ran up and knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments: do not kill, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not defraud, honor your father and mother." And he said to him, "Teacher, all these I have observed from my youth." And Jesus, looking upon him, loved him and said to him, "You lack one thing. Go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me." At that saying, his countenance fell, and he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you. You would be seated for a moment. I grew up on the south side of Pittsburgh. If you've ever been there, it was right where the steel mills were. And because it offered so many jobs, there were immigrants that came there from all over Europe. And each group of immigrants would build their own church in their own parish. So in that little neighborhood, there were 7 Catholic churches. One was Lithuanian, 2 were German, 2 were Polish, 1 was Slovak, and 1 they called just Irish. It was for everyone. But out of those parishes, the German parish, St. Michael's, which was the oldest and kind of the mother of all of them, even existing before the diocese was created, they had a wonderful tradition, not unlike the great passion plays that you would read about that go on in Oberammergau and other places of Germany. And every Lent, the people of the parish would adopt as their Lenten penance that they would put on this passion play that was written by one of the priests of the parish, a passionist father, called Veronica's Veil. That same play would be put on by the Passionists as well in Union City in New Jersey. But it had a huge impact, not only on the parish, but much beyond. And every Saturday and Sunday, there would be 4 performances with busloads of people coming from all over Pennsylvania. On Wednesdays, it would be all of the Catholic school children who would come. And so year after year, we would go to see Veronica's Veil. And it was an interesting story, especially for those of us who were young, because it was a little bit on the slow side. It was a really long play. That was part of the Lenten penance. But there would probably be between 80 and 100 parishioners who would be involved in every performance. And the kids would start out young, and then they would take on the roles as they got older. And eventually, you knew that you had really made it when you got to play either Judas or Jesus. Go figure, huh? But the story was basically related to the gospel that we heard tonight. It's the story of Jesus' passion, but there's another story that's woven through, and it's the story of the rich young man. And you hear he's a really fine person. He's observed all of those commandments since his youth, and he has this encounter with Jesus, and he tells Jesus that he wants to know what he needs to do. And Jesus gives him this incredible encouragement, but also challenge. Jesus tells him, "You lack one thing. Go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me." So Jesus asks him to imitate Jesus, to give away everything and to be so committed to the mission that he would be willing to follow Jesus. We read at the end of the passage, St. Mark tells us that the young man went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Now, in this play, Veronica's Veil, what happens is this man, he's tried to do what God's wanted him to do from the beginning of his life. And he mulls over what it is that Jesus had told him. And there's a beautiful line that we heard that's only in St. Matthew's Gospel, that when Jesus is speaking to him, to the rich young man, as he's giving him a challenge, it says, Jesus, looking upon him, loved him. Sometimes it's translated as Jesus looking at him and loving him. Sometimes it's Jesus with love in his eye. But he has this encounter with Jesus and Jesus' love. He goes away sad because he knows that the challenge is great. But the play Veronica's Veil is premised on this young man going away sad, but then reflecting upon what that encounter meant to him and having experienced Jesus' love, that he gives up everything, his possessions, including his girlfriend. And the play is about the wrath of his girlfriend, who's so angry at Jesus because her fiancé has given up everything, including her, for the Lord. And we find later in the story that he goes on to become a priest, and one of the scenes is he's offering mass in the catacombs before he would face martyrdom. But it's an engaging encounter that has fascinated not only artists, but also theologians for generations. But it's that connection between Jesus loving us and challenging us. Brothers and sisters, I am so delighted that Father Alex invited me to be with you this evening. Certainly, Exultemus sounds like it's been a great success, and I was happy to be part of that this evening, and particularly in this season of Lent. But there's the brilliance of connecting Eucharistic adoration also with the sacrament of reconciliation. Because it really is the closest that we can come to experiencing that love in Jesus' eye in 2021 is encountering the real presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. How it is that Jesus, as he stands here for us this evening, it reminds us of his great love, a love that would take him to the cross. When we're reminded, brothers and sisters, of that love, and that's what we do every time we come for adoration. We adore the Lord, but we experience his love first. Jesus is never outdone when it comes to generosity. But having experienced that love, we're then able to look into our hearts and to see whatever it might be that would keep us from being like that rich young man and following Jesus. What it would be that would keep us from saying yes to whatever it is that Jesus wants. And that, brothers and sisters, is what we want to be taken away in our lives. And so to have the wonderful opportunity of the sacrament of reconciliation, where the Lord in his love shines the light of that love into our hearts and helps us to recognize our own faults, our own sins. But then with that intense love invites us to an incredible communion with him. That connection between Eucharistic adoration and the sacrament of reconciliation is brilliant. And it gives us hope, it gives us courage, and it then inspires us to go forth. For brothers and sisters, in that play, Veronica's Veil, that rich young man would go on to do amazing things. Not that the Lord invites all of us to be priests or invites all of us to be martyrs, but he invites all of us to imitate him, to be willing to sacrifice and to pour out our lives in the service of others, the service of God, the service of God's church, and the service of others. And so this evening, as we give God praise, Exultemus, as we give God praise before the Blessed Sacrament, let's look for that love in his eye and allow that love then to strengthen us as we make some resolutions in our lives, as we celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation, and allow the Lord to truly penetrate our hearts, our stony hearts, with his love. Nothing is impossible with Christ.